Lincoln, welcome to Super League Podcast.
Thank you so much, Maanda. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. So I'm now familiar with this process of writing a book, and I know it's brutal. It's many hours, and you know the manuscript, the editing, and all of that stuff. And I often ask the authors, why go through all that pain? So what's happening in perhaps in the world, in your view, that called forth blazing a trail?
I think there were three things that were driving me. The first one is we have a dearth of leadership, not only in the country, in South Africa, but throughout the continent.
Yeah.
And we need to inspire.
And then the dearth.
So
the dearth, we're referring to sort of that scarcity, right?
The
and not the dearth with an R.
Yes, the scarcity of leadership.
Yeah.
The absence of leadership in all spheres of our society, be it public sector, private sector, NGOs, civil society organizations across the continent. And I needed to inspire the next generation of leaders to take up the mantle of leadership with a purpose. Okay. The second real driver was that I was born in a family of storytellers.
Okay.
And I've been telling stories all my life in different formats, whether through writing, articles to my staff, or writing in a blog, or speaking to people. So I wanted to create another avenue to reach out to more people.
Lovely.
And thirdly, I think that those of us who are of this generation needed to tell the stories of our journeys. With all of their talents, trials, and tribulations, so that the next generation can learn something or gain something that will be of use on their own journeys. And so I found myself with time during COVID, and I thought, wow, why don't I do this thing I've always said I'm going to do? And then, I had a manuscript, and that's why the book is there.
Lovely. I think I also want to just dive into all these three, and then we go into the book. The first one, this idea that the scarcity of leadership. Some people might argue all the senior positions are filled with people, all the way from the president, and almost every organization has got the big makulu boss. So what is Lincoln talking about?
I think leadership is about accountability. It's about people who want to lead towards a higher purpose or a higher goal. When we ask ourselves today, how many of the leaders we see are just occupying roles and not actually leading? Because leading is about taking people from where they are now to a better place. Through all the trials and tribulations. What I see in many of our corporates and the public sector and the NGO is the absence of accountable leaders who lead for a purpose. A lot of leaders are in it for themselves. They are in it for the perks. They're in it for the status, or for the power, or for being, praised. I think that true leaders are in leadership roles for something greater than themselves. And I would want young leaders to journey into leadership towards a higher goal, not for self-service or for self-serving purposes.
Okay, beautiful. Love that. So what happens if leaders are in a role for saving purposes? What goes wrong?
I think that if you're driven by perks, if you're driven by status, if you're driven by money, you're driven by power, that is going to affect the quality of decisions you make. It's going to affect the behaviors that you exhibit. But if you are in it for something bigger than yourself, your entire being and behavior, your mindset and your decisions will always be towards that higher purpose. That's what we're lacking. We have so much abundance of talent, so much abundance of resources, so much opportunity, yet we're going in the wrong direction. But if you have leaders that can take all of these and harness it towards a higher purpose, you can move this towards the right direction.
Lovely, lovely. Okay, so we'll circle back to this because there's a lot there in the book. But the second reason you spoke about, you've been in a family of storytellers. Just tell me a little bit about your blog, because it's quite a big deal, eh?
Yeah, I wanted to write a book, as early as 2013.
Wow.
And then somebody said, why you write a book? Why don't you have a blog? And I'm like,
yes.
I don't know what a blog is. And I started a journey of writing a blog, which I've now had for the last 10 years. And in that blog, I write about all of the issues that I'm passionate about, which are about societal change, youth development, women empowerment, ethics, and all of that. So I kept on writing this blog. And I wasn't really interested in how many people read the blog. For me, it was the content that was important, because at one point, one day, somebody will get there. Yes. As time went on, I found that more people were wanting more. People were wanting to listen to more. And I was not getting to more people. And I also found that there were a lot of people I was mentoring. There's a lot of people I was going to speak to, but I was still not reaching a big enough number. And then I thought the right transition from the blog would be a book. What I didn't bargain on was that the book will create even more interest, and there's not enough hours in a day to reach as many people, but I have to keep trying as much as I can, because the need is there. People are looking for stories. And what storytelling does is that sometimes it takes difficult concepts and makes them palatable and easier to understand. Storytelling is also sometimes taking a difficult message and being able to land without judgment, without making people feel smaller. Storytelling is also, if it's mixed with humor, it's able to make people remember the story and therefore remember the message behind the story. And that's what I've been doing virtually all my life.
Lovely. So I'm curious, so I'm trained as a chemical engineer, and my undergrad, and when we hear this storytelling and there are people who have got the ability to do these things, I just wonder if there's like 3 steps or something I can follow to be a better storyteller. Is there some recipe somewhere?
Actually, it goes back to this thing of whether leaders are born or leaders are developed.
Okay.
All leaders are developed.
Wow.
All leaders are developed.
That's
Every
great.
leader develops themselves to be better.
Okay.
You may be born endowed with some traits or some advantage.
Yeah.
But if you believe that you have a higher purpose, you will get to teach yourself the ability to tell stories, the ability to connect with audiences, the abilities to write or speak to people. That I think sometimes the models we put in place inhibit people from the best they can be. So somebody says, no, Maanda, you're just a chemical engineer. You can't communicate with people. Maanda got a podcast today. In the old framework, there's no way he should be having a podcast. If he don't have a podcast, he can only speak about engineering. No, that's limiting people. So I think that all of us must keep testing ourselves to go to the next level. So if I can just talk about storytelling.
Yes, please.
All the time, we are listening to people. We are listening to stories. We are writing things. We are reading things. Everything I hear, everything I read, everything I watch, I always say, if it impresses me, man, can I take that and give it to others so that more people can benefit from it? Maybe when I've listened to that, can I take that same story and change it and tell it this way so that it can reach a younger audience? Can I tell it this way so that I can reach a rural audience? Can I tell it this way so that I reach a global audience? Suddenly, all I did was to hear something from Maanda that he explained. And I took that
Yeah.
And then that's the generation of ideas, because knowledge is spent by taking more knowledge and adding to the knowledge and creating new knowledge.
Wow. Okay, studying stuff. Right now, the third piece was, some of you have kind of earned these like hard-earned leadership lessons that you perhaps might want to share with the rest of us. So this one almost very immediately leads us to the book, which kind of sort of say, but who is the author, first of all? Let's kind of understand the journey that he has gone through. So do you want to just kind of take us through, who is Lincoln?
Yeah, I'm Lincoln Gumali. I'm a husband to Zva of 25 years. I'm a father to...
Okay, that's big already on its own. That's worthy of celebration on its own. So well done. Very, very well done.
Must take all the credit for getting us here. Lise is my eldest daughter, and then Amara is our middle baby, and then we have Liam, who is the last born of the family. I am a son of two incredible people, Zwandile Mali and Gladys Nombeko Mali, who brought me up in Port Elizabeth. And I grew up in a very loving environment. With all the hardships of a township, my parents wanted to create an environment where we could get the best we can get within the confines of what apartheid gave us. They didn't want us to have less because apartheid decided that we should be here. So in the first part of my life, I was growing up popular at school, playing sports, being an altar boy at church, being a scout, doing well in my studies. Everything looked great.
Yes.
Right? My siblings that loved me. Then I was recruited into the liberation movement by a very dear friend, Namkam Joe, who told me that this life that I saw was too short-sighted. I was not seeing the pain.
Big picture.
I was not seeing the misery. I was not seeing the suffering of my people. And got me to understand what apartheid was. And looking at that, I thought, no, I don't agree with this system. I do not like discrimination in whatever form. I now can join the liberation movement at a very young age. And so I became a student leader at a very young age. And at 18 years old, I'd been in and out of jail.
No way.
Been expelled from school. I was trying to leave the country. Already charged with the crime. I was in and out of court. And so my father intervened by showing me an alternative path. And he asked us, after not studying for 2 years, when are you going back to school? And I'm like, what do you mean going back to school? We are still fighting for our rights. Our leaders are detained. We want guns, we want stones. And my father said, it's not the size of the stone you throw at the police that's going to make the biggest dent on the apartheid system. It's not the potency of the petrol bomb you throw at the army. It's the quality of education you get. It's the values you imbibe. It's the principles you uphold. And it's you creating yourself in the image of the very future that you want to fight for. That was a seminal moment in my life. And so in the book, I try and chronicle that journey from that conversation that made me move from an unconscious leader who was appointed captain of the team and all of those things, but I wasn't conscious of the responsibility of leadership. That leadership is a big responsibility for a cause bigger and better than you. And that's been the path I've been following for probably more than 40 years or more.
So I want to lean into this sort of less conscious leaders, or do you get the sense that we have a lot of people that are leading, but at a less conscious level?
Yes, I think we do.
What does it look like?
I think what happens is people aspire for positions, either in the work to get a promotion. Because the promotion comes with more money. Somebody wants a job because it's got more prestige. Somebody wants a title because they're elected to it and they're called a member of parliament or a MEC or a premier or president or cabinet minister. All of those things are okay as long as you understand the gravity of a leadership role and the enormous responsibility you have to those you are meant to lead. So that in your behavior, you behave in a manner that is exemplary. Two, in the way you make decisions, you are as inclusive as possible. In the way you act, you are as inspiring as possible. And then lastly, you are competent to do what is required of you. So that you are accountable to do what you are asked to do. So if I'm asked to lead a business, can I take this business from here to a higher place with all my stakeholders? If I cannot do that, I must admit I have failed. If I'm a politician, I'm responsible for delivering services, and the services are not delivered, I failed. If I am a church minister and the flock of God is worse off after I took over, I must take accountability. If I'm a school principal and the results are worse off, all of us have to have that accountability. So I have a sense that many leaders are not conscious of the enormous responsibility that comes with leadership.
Wow. Okay, that is deep. That I think if we solve all of that, a lot more people will be happier at work and will achieve more. I guess the country will be in even a much better state. So now you're a less conscious leader, and then your dad intervenes, and then you start the journey to, I guess, becoming a more conscious, being more aware of your responsibilities. What does that journey look like with sort of examples of your sort of lived experience?
Yeah, if I start with when we now wanted to go back to school, obviously we were expelled from school. No school would take us. And then Mrs. Tande Kambopa, who was the principal of Newell High, called us and said, I don't know you. I know your parents. I'm going to take you into my school. You can do all of your political things, but you must pass my studies, and I must never see you in this office. So the first responsibility I realized was that I can never be a student leader and fail. I have to pass and pass well, so that I'm an embodiment of the success I want the students to have. So that again was the first responsibility. Then I went to university. When I was at university,
which one?
All of the political, which was at Rhodes. And I was responsible, and I was the president of the students at Rhodes. But I had the responsibility to pass. So that the leader of students is not failing. And that my behavior, I must be seen as exemplary. So these were the things that were important for me. Then when I went into the civil service, in 1994. So firstly, when I went to a law firm in 1993, I had to learn about professionalism. Working in an attorney's office, Cyril Thompson and Haysom, they taught me how to be meticulous, how to be punctual, how to be dressed and present yourself, how to conduct yourself, how to make sure that the document you write is not full of mistakes, all of those things, because they've got consequences. How to respect your clients. Again, I was leading, but conscious of my responsibilities. And then I moved into the public sector, working for Professor Sbusiso Beng, who was the first minister of education in South Africa. And he taught me the essence of servant leadership.
That's a big word.
That if serving is beneath you, indeed leadership is beyond you. As
Okay.
public servants, we are
Yeah.
there to serve the people.
Okay.
I became a conscious public servant.
Lovely.
What people call a civil servant. For me, it's a public servant.
Sure.
That I must do my very best to really project government as there for people.
Okay.
And so working in President Mandela's government, Deputy President Mbeki's government, we set standards of what we're meant to be as civil servants. And I look back at that time, being guided by people like Professor Chabani Manganyi. These were amazing people who taught me how to be a proper civil servant and serve the people. And then when I moved into the private sector, I now had to learn another responsibility. How to look after all the stakeholders of a business. Your staff, your customers, your shareholders, your regulators, and all of that. And competence becomes important. Lifelong learning as a leader becomes important. If you're not learning as a leader, you are not leading anymore. You're stagnating. And the people are stagnating with you. Right? So this has been my journey, you know, and then I moved on to the continent, working on this amazing continent of ours. I had to again learn the consciousness of representing the country. In whatever I was saying or doing, I was not only seen as Lincoln Mali from Standard Bank, I was seen as Lincoln Mali from Standard Bank from South Africa.
Wow.
How do I become humble to learn the cultures of others? How do you become humble to learn the languages of others? How do I learn and listen to the political and cultural nuances of a country? How do I work and succeed in Nigeria as I do in Angola, in the DRC, and all these places? So my journey has been all these lessons, and these lessons are grounded in a number of principles that my
let's
father
unpack them.
and others have taught me.
Let's unpack the principles. Humility.
Humility is fundamental, right? The call to serve is fundamental. Probity is very important. Integrity is very important. Excellence in whatever you want to do is very important. And the ability to get feedback. You know, Manda, if you look on this continent of ours, we have an animal that is not one of the most beautiful. It's called a hippo. It's got the biggest mouth and the smallest ears. As a leader, you cannot be a hippo. You have to have the ability to listen, sense, understand, have empathy, have compassion, so that you can journey with the people you work with. So these are the lifelong lessons I've been journeying with throughout my life.
Wow, this is amazing. No wonder you had to write a book. There's so much there to unpack. And I think you talk about this idea of people-centered leadership and sort of how you look after, as you said, you know, your stakeholders, and the first one being your staff. And I see a lot of things go wrong there. And, you know, staff sort of become these people that sort of feed you the information, and then you go to Exco, you present, and then you repeat. How can leaders listening to us, you know, do things differently can confidently say that they are looking after their staff stakeholders very well?
Yeah, it's a journey, Manda. And what I've tried to do in my career is that I've spent 80% of my career with staff and customers.
Staff and customers.
I spend 80% of my time with staff and customers. So I always say to people, you say you're people-centered. Can I look at your diary? If your diary is spent 80% in meetings, in committees, where are you engaging with your staff? Because engaging with your staff is both listening to them, but also telling them the stories of where we're going and why. On sometimes you take the feedback and you happily go to Exco and fight the good fight. On some things, you deal it at the source and say, no, I think you're wrong, staff member.
Okay.
This is actually what you should be doing. You are doing that on the ground, engagement with your staff. You journey with them, you get to know them, you get to know what makes them tick, and you make them understand that the customer is the essence of the business.
Okay.
Because you can't do that on your own. You can only do it through your staff. I can't relate to all of my customers. My journey through my customers is through my staff.
Sure. So now
my staff see where I'm going and why.
Okay. Happy with the principle. How does this look like practically? So tomorrow, someone is like, okay, I want to engage with my staff. I want to journey with them. I want to know, them and how they tick and what works well, their strength, and et cetera, et cetera. Practically, what would you do?
So I'll start with changing my diary.
Okay.
I'll say to them, go review your diary now.
Okay.
And go back and say, what would I want to do in the next 3 weeks that's different? Okay. So if your diary is dominated by these internal meetings, block those meetings. And then, depending on the team you have, try and set up some one-on-ones with people. Don't go there with preconceived ideas. Try and listen.
In the one-on-one meetings?
A lot of open-ended questions.
Okay.
Right? How do you think of the company? Tell me a bit about yourself. How long have you been in the company? What are the things you like about the company? What are the things that you don't like? What are the things that we can change? What are some of the things that you see that I could do better? That's why I say feedback is a gift.
Sure.
It's difficult in the beginning, but over time, it's like riding a bicycle. You become better at it. But when you do this, you have to be genuine.
Sure.
If people think that you're doing it for show, you're doing this for the cameras, you're doing it to tick a box.
Yes.
They won't trust you. And your body language must say that I'm receptive to your conversation. Your body language must say, I want to hear you. So let me give you a couple of examples again, practically, that I talk about in the book.
Yes, please.
If I give you South Africa, when I worked at the Standard Bank Group, there is no town in South Africa that has got a Standard Bank branch that I've never been to.
Sure. Wait. There is no town.
There is no town
in the whole of South Africa.
The whole of South Africa. We at the time, I think, had about 650 branches. And I've been there talking to my team on a regular basis. That's engagement. And I'm not high same by, it's engaging with people to get to know me. If you ask anybody at Standard Bank today that worked in those times, they wouldn't know what my title was. But they all know Lincoln or Lincoln, because I was engaging with them at a human level. Whether the person was a driver, the person was making tea, the person was a teller, all of them, I journeyed with them over the time that I worked there. Give another example. Nigeria.
Before we move on, because I want to get to the details. So you get over 600 branches across all these towns. You arrive at my town in Thohoyandou, and then what? And then you have conversations about me and what I like to do. Aren't you there with the corporate mandate to, I don't know, improve, customer scores and increase retentions and do the things that must be done?
No. Those things are at the back of your mind, not the front of your mind. Because if you put them in the front of your mind, the staff cannot connect with you. They just see you as just somebody else to come and tell them what to do. So in those environments where I could arrive early in the morning before they start, I would have a conversation. And I would tell them about the organization, our customers, where we're going, in such a lively and interesting way. Lots of laughs, lots of stories, but I'm delivering the things you were talking about, but I'm doing them in such a manner that they will remember everything. and then create an opportunity afterwards for a dialogue and a conversation. And then we're hugging, we're taking pictures. In those times, there was no Facebook and whatever, but we took photos. In some of those branches today, people still have those photos that we took from those trips. So Toyando is an example. I would have gone to Toyando many times. And be there with the teams. If I come at the end of the day, I will be talking to the team. There are times when I would say to the people, no, we have to leave now. You're home. People are waiting for you. The people say, no, we are still engaging. Sometimes it's during work time. If it's work time, I go to the back of the branch. And I go and sit there. And I call the guys in groups. We're starting to talk. If they're eating magwinya, we're eating magwinya there. If they're eating mopani worms, we're eating mopani worms together. In that way, I am not this monster. I am one of them. But I have a higher responsibility. Those engagements sometimes will bring out painful things that they're suffering from. My job is to address those things. Sometimes they raise issues where I need to teach. Sometimes there is issues where I need to guide. And it's all in the conversation. So if I take Nigeria as an example, Nigeria has got 36 provinces or states.
Yes.
Most Nigerians might have gone to maybe 10 of those states. I went to 28 of those states. Traveling the length and breadth of Nigeria to go and plant the Standard Bank flag, not in people's minds, but in people's hearts. I needed to go there as a stranger and live there as a member of the family and the team through conversations, through these dialogues, through going with them to go and hunt for clients, going and visiting their customers, go and win business, or go to environments where they've lost the client is unhappy. And I said, let's go. Let the customer tell me what they think. And the customers enjoy that thing of telling somebody senior what's wrong. And again, the staff are enjoying it, but they're learning from me how to deal with conflict. Right? Or
and how do you handle those?
Where the language was different, where it was Portuguese. But the language was not a barrier because warmth can come through regardless of language. I had a colleague who was translating, but it got to a point where there were times where I now knew what she was going to say. And there were times where the staff would laugh, both in my joke in English, and then it gets translated and they laugh again in Portuguese. So these are the journeys. But through those things, we managed to take businesses that were loss-making to profitability. We take people that didn't believe in themselves to growth. And when I look now across the continent, so many people I worked with who are now occupying some amazing jobs, both in the Standard Bank Group and outside, because this is about grooming the next layer of leaders. When you're driving for 3 hours with somebody, you are engaging conversations. You are teaching. They get to know you as a human being. There's no title there. We're driving in a car. Whether it's South Africa, whether it's Angola, Ghana, Nigeria, DRC, Kenya, you get people to know you. Those relationships will last me a lifetime. Because I wasn't there to just deliver a corporate message. I was there to deliver a leadership message which makes the organization succeed, but the individuals to succeed in their personal and professional journeys.
Wow. So I'm trying to just like put myself in the shoes of, I mean, you were senior, right, at Standard Bank, and you grew, your rise was astronomical. People with those titles and roles typically are in meetings with the committees and forums and everything else and reporting and all of that. And you're out eating magwinya in Thohoyandou. How does one kind of rebalance that time? Because this is where I'm getting lost in the conversation.
So if you go back to the diary with a very, very discerning eye, you will see there are so many meetings that are not worth the time.
Wow.
You have to have the courage of your conviction to know which meetings are important, which are not. And make sure that as many meetings are standardized in terms of when in the month they take place, so that you free yourself the rest of the month to get to what is going to make a change in the business. Let me give you an example.
Yes, please.
I used to say to my colleagues, we sit in this meeting, we say, these results are not good. We have to change these results. They're not good. Then we sit in meetings the whole month. Same people. Then they meet at the end of the month and they say, the results have gotten worse.
And then say, what did you do about it?
Who of you have gone outside, to your point, to do something? And you can only do something with your staff member or your customer or your stakeholders. That is it. Not in that meeting. And then when you come back to the meeting, then they say, oh, the results have changed. You sit there and you just smile because you know the results were changed because of the actions of being on the ground. Seeing people win every day, seeing people meet their targets, helping them meet their targets. If you're a leader and all you do is to tell people you've done well, not done well, but where were you during the journey? What support? What guidance? What resources have you given to get people to that? Of course, if people, you've given them all of that and it's not working, then you have the difficult conversations. And those difficult conversations have to be factual. They have to be fair. They have to be firm. The 3 F's. Factual, fair, yet firm. And so, as a leader, you have to lead from the front with a flag, not behind with a whip. You can only do that through your engagements with people and not just sending emails or reports.
So similar vein, you have mentored a lot of people over the years, and I hear a lot of stories about people you've mentored and impacted. What's your approach to mentoring people?
I battle with the labels, whether mentoring, coach, all of these things. So I always say to people, I'm on a journey with you. Because somebody intervened in my life. My priests, my sports coaches, my parents, my relatives, veterans of the liberation movement saw something in me that I didn't see myself. And they gave me opportunities to be something in life. And that's why I'm obsessed with helping young leaders to be their best. And so sometimes it's not meeting them every time, all the time, but it's them reaching out when they make some big decisions, when they're upset with something, when they're worried about something, when they find themselves in a negative spiral. And then we're bouncing off ideas. In the end, the decisions are always theirs. But I can be a sounding board. I can be a guide. I can also be somebody who says, I hear you, but have you thought about this? Because sometimes when you're in a conflict, you can only tell me what you think is the other side's problem. Part of my journey is to say, okay, what about this? What did you do? And sometimes it's uncomfortable, but I can do it. I mean, she's going to kill me for using this example, but my eldest daughter works for one of the banks. She's a senior manager there. And there would be times when she would say, Pops, I need to talk to you. So I'll phone her. And she'll tell me all of the things that are wrong that she sees there. She says, what do you think? What's your advice? And I want you to advise me as my father, not as a manager. And I would say to her, my princess, I will advise you as a father who's also a manager. Which means that where I think that she's not getting it right, I have to be honest with her. Because a corporate is a societal thing. It's made of human beings.
Yeah.
Public sector institutions made up of human beings.
Yeah.
Your ability to work with others is critical
Sure.
as a person working in any environment.
Lovely, lovely. So still on the people side of things, how is you talk about in the book, but this idea of diversity and inclusion, and not just bringing people who look different, but how do you truly be inclusive in how you lead?
One of the first things that, let's take a South African context.
Yes.
If I'm going to lead an environment with 11 languages,
yes.
What's my ability to understand those 11 languages? To really
it starts there.
To learn and understand.
Okay.
Even if I cannot speak back, can I understand what people are saying? Because to your point, if I'm in Toyando,
yes,
can I make the difference to know, Dimategwan and Dimasiar? Do I know the difference? If I don't know the difference, I'm not respecting those people.
Sure.
Also, do I know how to say thank you? Do I know how to understand the cultural nuances of gender? Do I know the differences that are there if I go to a more Pedi-dominated environment versus a Tsonga environment?
Yeah.
That's understanding, but it requires humility to learn.
Sure.
Whether it's Afrikaans, English, Swati, all of these languages. That's at that level. Secondly, you talk about diversity and you have women in your team. Can you, as a male leader, understand what a woman goes through who's going through a divorce?
Sure.
Who is going through an abusive relationship?
Sure.
Or who, once you have children, cannot have children? Or is having postnatal depression? Or is having a child with disabilities?
Sure.
These are the daily challenges that women go through. And as a leader, as I say in the book, you have to have the ability to embrace that and understand. Then you have, in your diversity, young people. How do you manage a dynamic between younger members of the team and older members of the team? How do you give as many opportunities to the young people whilst also understanding and valuing the experience of the old ones? How do you make the dynamic of leading a team of Black people, Indian people, colored people, and white people if you have an attitude towards, let's say, Indian people? You say in your private capacity, I hate Indian people, but they're your team. They are your customers. I hate white people, but they're your team. I hate Black people, but they're your team. I hate colored people, but they're your team. Diversity has to be in you. I have to care deeply about the vendor person as I do an Indian person. I have to care about the religious dynamics of my team. Somebody is Hindu, somebody is Christian, somebody is Islam. All of these are in my team. You watch and you think the problem is the results. No, the problem is that you're not leading your team. You're leading a faction. You are a factional leader. You're not a leader of all. In a diverse country as we have, you have to have the ability to be a leader of all.
Wow. So that's a lot of work. I just got tired just trying to understand all the differences. When you start, you go and kind of get a dictionary to learn all the languages and learn all the nuances of different religions and the Gen Zs and Gen that. I'm just a finance manager. Can I just run the numbers and do the things I need to do? Why?
But you need those numbers, and they come from different people. So your best teachers are your team. Your team, if it's diverse, it gives you all of that. You learn everything from them. I have learned so much from the people I work with. I also, in my own life, want to have a diverse life with diverse friends. I want to have diversity so that I'm always listening to nuances. Because if you don't, you will not understand what makes people tick. So I'll give you a small example where one time we had about 15,000 people that were in my team. across those 700 branches.
That's a
And
lot.
going to these branches, one day, guys who belong to the Islam faith
Yes.
said to me, you know, Lincoln, we are going to go to Ramadan to fast.
Yes. Yes.
And it is so difficult because everybody has been fasting and they will break their fast and want to eat. So we close the branch very late and we have to rush home and cook a meal for people who are very hungry, an entire family.
Ish.
And then they said, if we could be allowed to work during our lunchtime, we could leave at 4.
Okay.
And then we've got time to get there.
Yes.
And I thought, wow.
Yeah.
And I discussed with everybody.
Yeah.
The normal corporate response was, oh no. I'm like, guys, this is the suggestion. Do you have any objection? The guys are saying they want to work their lunchtime. We worked that out, and people were working their lunchtime, and we managed to have it. Why? Because we listened to people and dealt with it. I'll give you another example. Gender parity. Every business unit I've ever worked in, I start by looking at the parity of salaries. If there's a discrepancy of race, if there's a discrepancy of gender, it's unequal. It's unacceptable. Let's look at how we can close the gap. So in one of the businesses I was responsible for, it took us 5 years in the card and payments business in Standard Bank. I didn't wait to listen to what will be done by the whole group. I am responsible for this area. We worked with that with my HR team. And they are the heroes in this because we kept at it. We managed to achieve gender parity in salaries. And how did we do it? We looked, when we were employing, we made sure that women were not underselling their worth. They were not negotiating. When we were promoting people internally, we paid them so that you don't pay people from outside, you're not paying the people that you've got. You know, all of those things. When we're giving increases and bonuses for performance, we made sure. And then all of that, suddenly you could change the shift. So all of these things are about listening. When you work in a diverse team, you listen. Another example was with young people. We worked in an environment where I had a lot of young people in the card business. And they were graduates. As they came in, I asked them all to come. They didn't know who I was. So nobody knows my title. I had to check with them, which school, which university. Then I said, please, can you ask them to organize you a lunch at our Global Leadership Center? Don't worry, we'll pay for it. Then they started asking, hey, we talked to that guy. Who is he? They're like, no, he's the head of the business. And they were laughing. That guy, is he the head of the business? We got together and I said to these young guys, after the lunch, I said, can you go create a product you would want to use if you were a student, now that you're inside the bank? With the budget, you can do anything. Those guys worked and came with some incredible results. Those guys ended up presenting the first platform. Right? And they created this. And they worked through all the difficulties of a bank. But it was teaching them to deal with adversity. So that you don't think that as a young person, I can come with ideas and everything's going to be plain sailing. Some of those guys today are moving very fast in the organization. So for me, diversity is not just picking numbers and filling in a form about where our equity numbers are. Excellence and redress are two sides of one coin. I don't like companies that are excellent but are not transformed. Neither do I like companies that say we're transformed but they are not performing.
Wow.
Two sides of the same coin, same WhatsApp group.
So let's put it like a bow on this because we are like almost at the top of the hour. So there's a leader listening to us and they want to kind of take some high level top 3 big themes from our conversation. If they kind of skip the most part of the podcast, maybe there was load shedding here or this and that. Hey, some 3-4 key takeaways from our conversation. I guess this is that question to say, here are some lessons for the next generation of leaders.
I hope I'll cover it as one and not 3 or 4.
Okay.
So if you look at the title of the book, it's called Blazing a Trail.
Yes.
It comes from a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson,
Yes,
which says, do not go where the path may lead.
Sure.
Go instead where there's no path and leave a trail.
Okay.
So what I saw as dominant culture of leadership in the public sector, I did not like.
Sure.
What I saw as a dominant culture in the private sector, I did not like. I wanted to model myself as a leader in a different way. And when I look back, I had the examples. My teachers, my priests, my parents. And I challenge the people on your podcast to think about the people who've had the biggest impact in their lives. Their teachers, principals, and all of that. When you go back to where you come from, those people may not have risen up in the economic ladder. They may not have got more money, more status. But when they see you, Maanda, their face lights up.
Sure.
Because their calling was to produce people like you.
Sure.
I wanted to be a leader that produces other leaders.
Wow.
That I wanted to be my legacy. I wanted to produce the best people who don't only become better leaders, who to go on top positions, but in their families, with their children, with their communities, they plow back.
Sure.
That for me is what trailblazing is about. So what it says is each one of us, in our sphere of influence, what can we do to make our society better? It might be giving your time. For younger people. It might be giving you expertise to school to go children. It might be making your team better. It might be supporting your team members going through a difficult time. All of that is leading differently. Not these things we read about. This omnipresent leader who knows it all, my way or the highway, who makes people horrible, makes people feel, undermined. Not the leader I wanted to be. I wanted to be different. And I stayed the course of wanting to be different. The second thing I'll say is bring yourself to work. Bring your authentic self to work and don't be a mimic or replica of what you think is success. I have been the same person. I'm the same person with my friends, my family, at work. I'm the same person. People would say to me, why are you dressed like this? Like, I feel like, but you're an executive. Like, what is an executive? That is about bottles. And the last thing I will say, leadership is not a title held. It's a profound influence felt.
Oh, that's big. You want to say that again? You want to just say that again?
Leadership is not a title held. It's not a promotion attained. It's not an election won. Leadership is a profound influence felt. If you're not influencing positively, you're not leading. You're just taking a straw.
Wow. We're at the top of the hour and I want to honor your time. And I'm so grateful for all the lessons that you have taught us and all the work that you've done over the years and the impact. I have a funny feeling that we need a part 2 of this podcast. What say you?
It will be my honor, my leader. It will be my honor.
Lovely, lovely. No, thank you so much. Let me stop.
Maanda. Thanks so much.
Lincoln, welcome to Super League Podcast.
Thank you so much, Maanda. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. So I'm now familiar with this process of writing a book, and I know it's brutal, it's